Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of Talking Black. As always, I have three insightful, well-respected individuals here with me to discuss issues relevant to our community. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce, on my far right, a gentleman who is somewhat of a regular to this show. Recognized scholar, politician, and now author of the new book entitled Nothing Wrong with Being Right, Dr. Rudolphus F. Kensington III. Next, seated to my immediate left, we have one-time member of the National Association of Black Journalists, a former member of the Congressional Black Caucus and Blacks in Government, also known as BIG, one-time spokesperson for the National Black Consciousness and the Black to Africa movement. Put your hands together for the current founder and architect of YACH, the not-for-profit-based Youth Academy Center for Hispanic Teens, Mr. T. Gregory Bell. Now, I've known this last brother since we were children in the struggle, and it's my extreme pleasure and honor to welcome him to the show. Community organizer, activist, motivational teacher, husband, father, and author of the new children's book entitled Whitey Ain't Seen Power Yet, Brother Shabazz X. This evening, we have a call to action, hot topic conversation concerning the case of Georgia v. Davis. On August 19, 1989, Mark McPhail, an off-duty police officer, was shot and murdered. Subsequently, Troy Anthony Davis, a former sports coach, was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death for this murder. Now, 20 years later, several witnesses who testified against Mr. Davis have recanted, claiming police coercion and other questionable tactics led them to give false testimony. This and other facts surrounding the case has led to many prominent figures such as President Jimmy Carter, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, Pope Benedict XVI, and many others to persuade Georgia and federal courts to grant Mr. Davis a new trial. So, gentlemen, I ask you, how do we stand on this?
First of all, let me first start off by saying it's a great privilege to be honored back on your show. I'd like to take this time to thank you and your producers and for putting together this forum so that the African American community can discuss issues in a civilized manner, without hanging out on corners and drinking 40s and such not. But that's another story. But let's discuss this case, this Troy Anthony Davis, this thug who went out and murdered this defenseless police officer. Rough as Hell, I believe, was his nickname they called him out on the street. This thug. Well, let me put it so you understand. I'm gonna count it out for you. One, eyewitness testimony put this man behind bars. This thug was out cohabitating with a bunch of young teenagers at a pool party where another young man was shot. The same weapon that was used at that pool party was the same weapon that they recovered, the .38 caliber that was used to kill this police officer. Two, these eyewitnesses that I mentioned came forward. Not one or two. We're talking nine eyewitness testimony. People who came forward to say Troy Anthony Davis was the man they saw that night shoot and murder that poor defenseless policeman on the street. And see, this young thug fled to Atlanta immediately after murdering this police officer, where it took them 4 days to corner and trap and capture this young man. No, people, these are the facts of the case. Nothing else but the facts. That's what I'm into, Miss Delacroix. The facts, nothing but.
Du jour.
Exactly. You can't be that self-absorbed. Why can't I? First of all, let me say congratulations to you, Eliza, on the success of your show, and
Thank you.
Huh? You said something?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Anyway, Mr. Kensington. Dr. Kensington. Your facts seem to be dipped in a cloud of inaccuracy and flowered in seasoned truth. You can't cook the facts, young man. Nor can you serve up half-baked food of thought to hungry people and call it a meal. Now, let me count to D and explain it to you in ways that you can understand. First of all, you started off by calling Troy Anthony Davis a thug, when in fact, he's a devoted son to a sheriff, okay? A devoted son to his mother. His sister, who was paralyzed, Troy dropped out of school to take care of her, going to school at night and graduating with honors. So while you started off by calling this cat a thug, I don't see thug right here. I see a young man who's trying to do something with himself. Next, with no physical evidence, no DNA, no weapon, they conclude that this Troy Anthony Davis was guilty of this crime. Now, let's go back to 1991 when there were 9 so-called eyewitnesses. Now we stand here, 7 of those 9 eyewitnesses have now recanted their testimony. They discussed police coercion, being threatened by the police, and everything else led them to point out Troy as the killer. Now, we look back to those 2 that recanted. That's the Red Coals, but we're going to talk about him later. I want to talk about Steve Sanders. Steve Sanders was one of the 2 who didn't recant. He stated after the murders that he could not recognize the shooter. But in trial, 2 years later, he points out Troy Anthony Davis. Now his memory's gotten better over time, 2 years later. Now he recognizes Troy Anthony Davis. Shortly thereafter, he didn't know who did the shooting now. This is Steve Sanders. This is the one who, one of the other ones that didn't recant. Now let's go back to Sylvester Red Coles. Sylvester Red Coles, a known neighborhood thug, okay, went to the police after knowing that the following day that he was being looked at as a suspect. He shows up at the police station with his high-priced attorney, okay, and implicates Troy Anthony Davis. Now, he's admitted to the fact that he was there at the scene. He was arguing with another young man, a homeless man, and he was available for the police to question thereafter, but failed to say anything about Troy Anthony Davis until the following day with his high-priced attorney. But at that time, he himself was at the pool party, known to carry a .38 caliber handgun, the same .38 caliber handgun used to murder this officer. He claimed the following day, after the police had posted Troy Anthony Davis all over the news and all over the paper as a cop killer, the police then finds out that this Sylvester Red Coles owned a .38. When they asked of Mr. Coles about this weapon, you know what Mr. Coles told him? Mr. Coles told him that he lost his .38 caliber about an hour before the shooting, and he could not find it later. They never searched his home, and never searched him, never took any evidence from Mr. Coles. Mr. Coles was exonerated, let go. But Troy Anthony Davis was later in Atlanta looking for a job interview. As a matter of fact, I've heard the red papers where he was walking a dog and going about his business. And not at one time did anyone who noticed him thought he looked concerned or anything after shooting a police officer. He's walking the dog. I don't think so. There's so many different things about this case that the prosecutor is not letting known to the public. I go back to one of the statements that was made about his so-called alias, and let me get this right, was R-A-H.